Welcome back, everybody. My name is Taylor Martin. This is the best Damn EDC, and this video has been a long time coming. I say that a lot, but this video, more so than most I've ever made, has been in the making for several months. It all started originally with me buying the Rovivon Aurora and kind of giving that light its first shove onto YouTube. Nobody had really made a video before I did on the Rovivon Aurora, and now they're everywhere. Then Nightcore sent me this flashlight right here, the Tini, T-I-N-I. Olight sent me the I1R EOS, and then just kind of grew from there. It took me a while to acquire some of these, and some of them were not what I expected they would be, but we'll get to that. One thing to note before we do start, every flashlight on this table is USB rechargeable, and I chose that for a reason. There are a lot of AAA flashlights that are keychain flashlights, but I did not include those, and I'll explain that in the video as well. With that said, these are the best USB rechargeable keychain flashlights that you can get right now in 2019, and let's do the thing. So here we are with keychain flashlights, and it's kind of a touch and go topic because there's so many different ones out there. So many different flashlights out there for your keychain, and a lot of those are AAA or sometimes even AA batteries, and a lot of people prefer those, and that's mainly because you can just, if it dies, you can just stop by just about any store and just replace the battery, move on. I chose rechargeable batteries because, in my humble opinion, I think they're just a little more usable. When am I not gonna be around a power source? Or a lot of these, you can also just swap out the battery in them and they're good to go. This one uses a CR123A. These all use the same battery except for the I1R. So there are replaceable batteries, and you may not be able to just pick them up in any store, but you can replace the batteries. I want to talk about all of these last, however, because they're just kind of in a different class. And these other flashlights, well, some of them weren't what I expected. Let's start with the Beast. This one is, I believe, the newest out of all of these flashlights. Nightcore sent this to me a long time ago, and it's a pretty innovative light. It is big, though. It is quite large for a keychain flashlight. It does come with this keychain attachment, and you could carry this on your keys. This, for me, straight up is just too bulky for my keys, but it does come with a pocket clip that is removable. So if you wanted to carry this in your pocket instead, you could. It's around, honestly, it's not far off in size from the Olight S1R Baton 2. It's actually very similar. It is a little more bulky, and it is made of plastic. This is not a keychain flashlight, and this arguably could be. So that line is very, very gray, especially as flashlight technology gets better and brighter lights get smaller and battery technology improves. There are tons of different things that can make what wouldn't have been a keychain flashlight before a keychain flashlight. What is the notable feature of this light, however, is, well, I have it locked, gonna unlock it. It uses the same Nightcore interface that most of your Nightcore flashlights use, but it has this display on it. And what that display does is it tells you first your lumens, and second, how much runtime you have left, which is genius. 61 hours, 33 minutes left at that 1 lumen setting. And then if you go to 15 lumens, you've got 16 hours and 29 minutes. That will live update. It will disappear, actually, after a few seconds, just to save battery. But it will update as the display stays on. You can hit it to bring that display back up. 65 lumens, it'll tell us 8 hours, 22 minutes. 200 lumens, 2 hours and 40 minutes, and then it'll drop back down. However, if you hold that top button, it will go to turbo mode, and you can see 20 minutes on your turbo mode left. This hasn't been charged in a very long time. That 1 lumen, you can see how much that changed after having the turbo on for just a few seconds. But that is the standout feature of this. You do have your instant turbo just by pressing that. And you do have a lock function, so you can avoid accidentally turning it on. You can tap and press, and you hold, and that'll be 1. You continue to hold, it'll be a second lock, and that second lock is just a little harder to unlock. So there you go. That is the Nightcore TUP. Let's talk about a few of its specifications. The Nightcore TUP, this retails for the same price as the Olight S1R2. That means this is $64.95, 65 bucks. You get your dual side switch with 5 brightness levels, which is 1 lumen, 15 lumens, 65, 200, and 1000 lumens. Your run times on that are gonna be, at 1 lumen, you're gonna get about 70 hours when this thing is fully charged. At 15 lumens, you get 19 hours. At 65 lumens, you get 9.75 hours. At 200 lumens, you're gonna get about 3 hours. And at 1000 lumens, it says 15 minutes. I could probably believe that. That is a very bright light for such a small package. What you don't get on this is a strobe function. There's no strobe. It does have memory, so it will remember the last brightness that you are using. It is IP54 water resistance rating, so it's probably the least water resistant of any of the ones that I'm gonna talk about here today. It is 1.88 ounces, so it's not very heavy. It is heavier than a lot of the others because a lot of the others are much, much smaller, but speaking of size, this is gonna be 2.77 inches, that's 70.3 millimeters, 1.6 inches in diameter at the thickest side, and that is 29.5 millimeters. And on the narrow side, that is 1.03 or 26.2 millimeters, 1.03 inches or 26.2 millimeters. The LED inside this flashlight is a Cree XPG2 LED. And of course, I don't need to mention this because all of these are USB rechargeable, but the charging is done on the side under this little plug. According to the Nightcore website, a 1200 milliamp hour battery, which if that's true, that's a really large battery in such a small package. So there you go. That is the Nightcore TUP. And this flashlight, I think it's a very interesting flashlight. I think the form factor is this flashlight's biggest pitfall because it is such an awkward shape. I carried this in my pocket for a few days, and while it's not too different from the S1R2 in size, it's just bulkier. And that's all there is to it. It is bulkier, and no, I would not carry this on my keychain, but I imagine that maybe Alex would, or there are people who I've seen with dongles much bigger than this. It is smaller than my key dongle for my truck, so there is that. But yeah, it is a little bulky for me. It is the biggest of these flashlights, and it is the most powerful with the biggest run times, but you also do have that extra heft. Moving right along, the next flashlight is from Everbright, and this is just the LED keychain light. And when I ordered this, I thought it was much thinner. The pictures kind of made it look not quite as small as the i1R, but more along the diameter of the i1R. That's just kind of how it looked in the pictures. I don't know if they were using a render on a real hand or what they were doing, but it did not look this big on the website on Amazon. But again, it's got the keychain dongle, so I will let it slide. This is a USB rechargeable keychain flashlight, and this one has a bit of a different interface because most of these twist lights, you have two brightnesses, which is you twist, you have your low, twist further, you have your high mode. But this flashlight, you twist and you've got one mode, whatever the previous mode was, it will advance each time you twist, so it doesn't have memory. The next time you twist, it's brighter, brighter more, and then you're gonna go to a strobe mode and then back to low, medium, high, strobe. So each time you twist, you're gonna go to a different mode on the flashlight, which is interesting. I've not seen that before. This flashlight, like I said earlier, has a R, actually, I did not say that before, but it is an RCR123A battery, and it is rechargeable through this there's a little band that goes around right here. It's got some raised areas that help you grip it. You twist this around, and I might have twisted a little too far for practical purposes. Right there, a micro USB port underneath there, and if you turn this just a little further, it will cover that up. So as far as specs go on this, actually let's start with price. $18.49 for this flashlight. You've got some pretty good features for an RCR123A flashlight that you can keep on your keychain, and it's not huge. I mean, next to the TUP, it is pretty small comparatively, and it is almost identical in size to the S1R2 baton. But I wouldn't want to carry this on a keychain. This, also probably not. It's big enough to where it might catch something, and I'm pretty sure that these split rings would probably break. But $18.49 is not a bad deal for this flashlight. Like I said, you have 4 modes. That is going to start with 30 lumens on your low end. That'll last for 10 hours on a full charge. 100 lumens is your medium level, which will last for about 4 hours. And 160 lumens is your high. So it's not the brightest flashlight ever, only 160 lumens. And it says 2 hours, which seems pretty low hours for a CR123A. So maybe those are conservative, I don't know. But you definitely get better run times out of the Olight. which also runs on a RCR123A. Inside, you have a Cree XP E2 LED. You have an IP65 water resistance rating. Don't know the weight on this one because it wasn't listed. There actually wasn't a ton of information on this light at all. It wasn't even available on Everbright's website. I could only find it on Amazon. But it is 2.5 inches long, that is 63.5 millimeters, and 0.8 inches in diameter, or 20.6 millimeters. So that is the Everbright LED keychain flashlight, and I think this is a pretty solid option. It is big, so if you don't mind the heft, it's a pretty solid option. You're gonna get a little more runtime at that 160 lumens than you would out of some of these smaller lights. But for me, this one's just a little too big, and if I were to carry this, it'd probably just ride loose in my pocket, which I don't really like. You could also just use this clip to ride this in your pocket, but not my thing. I would probably much rather just carry this if I'm gonna be honest. Next up is kind of a classic light. This is the Nitecore TIP. It looks like those old, really crappy keychain flashlights that you used to find at like Lowe's in the tools department, but this is the bigger, better brother of those flashlights. It has a reversible pocket clip, so you can use this clip in either direction, and it is totally removable if you don't want to use it. You can use it without that and just hook this to your keychain, which is why this whole thing is here. Again, you've got the same interface as you did on the TUP. Click to turn on and cycle through with the top button, or you can hold to go instantly to turbo. That'll keep it on, but if you have the flashlight on already, that is a momentary turbo as well. It is charged through this micro USB port on the side of the light, which is actually covered up by the clip when you have it in this position. It is totally exposed when the clip is in this position, and my belief is that maybe this port is already waterproofed, much like your phone charger port, which is not closed off. That's my guess. I'm not entirely sure on that, but it is IPX8 certified for water resistance. It is a dual side switch with your multiple modes. Your low mode is going to be just 1 lumens. You're going to get 46 hours. Your medium is 35 lumens. That's going to run for about 6.5 hours. Next up is 150 lumens, which will last for about 1.5 hours. And then finally, your turbo is 360 lumens. You can get about 30 minutes of runtime out of that. This thing is just 0.83 ounces, so it's very, very lightweight, 23.5 grams. It is 2.39 inches long, and that is 60.8 millimeters, 0.96 inches wide, and that is 24.5 millimeters, 0.54 inches, so half an inch wide. That's 13.8 millimeters. Inside, you have a Cree XP G2 LED. Again, like I said, it is micro USB rechargeable. That is a 500 milliamp hour battery inside. And that is the Nitecore TIP, or TIP, if you want to call it the TIP, or the TIP, whichever you prefer. But yeah, you can attach this to your keychain pretty easily. This would be a pretty slim keychain flashlight, and I quite like the form factor too. It's very quick. I like having that instant turbo, which is really, really nice. And I just think it's a solid flashlight, and there's a reason these right here are very popular. The TIP for Nitecore is a very popular flashlight. But if you want to take it down just a little notch and go much smaller, then you're looking at the Tinny, or the Tiny. I'm not entirely sure. It is TINI. This is the copper version. They sent this to me because I requested the copper version specifically, just because, well, you know, I like copper. And it is a raw copper, so it has patinaed really beautifully. And this is, I would say, no different than any of the others from the Tinny line. I think they're all pretty much the same. You have the same interface as the other two flashlights from Nitecore, but this one you're gonna have to long press to turn it on, and then short presses to cycle through your brightness modes. So your low mode, again, is gonna be 1 lumens, which is gonna last for about 60 hours, which is impressive. 38 lumens is your medium level. That's gonna last for about 4 hours. 145 lumens is your next. That'll last for about an hour. And then you have a turbo mode, 380 lumens, which will last for about 15 minutes. This one is also IP54 certified for water resistance. You have a port cover right here on the corner of the flashlight for covering your micro USB port. This flashlight is actually gonna weigh 0.76 ounces. The other versions of this are gonna be lighter because they're not copper. That is 21.5 grams. It is 1.7 inches long, or 43.2 millimeters, 1 inch wide. It's 1 inch wide, that's 25.4 millimeters, and then 0.45 inches thick, half an inch thick as well, and that is 11.4 millimeters. Inside this one also has a Cree XP G2 LED. Like I said, it is micro USB rechargeable, and the battery inside is 280 milliamp hours. So that's the last of the bigger keychain flashlights, but now we're gonna get into the true tiny keychain flashlights, the things that I think are more interesting, because a keychain flashlight should be easily accessible, barely noticeable, and just kind of there. And for me, USB rechargeable. Again, I just don't like AAA or AA batteries. No matter how easy they are to find, I would much rather have a rechargeable flashlight that I can charge up a couple times a week or once a week. Really, honestly, I charge whatever keychain flashlight I'm carrying at the time. I may charge it once every other week. I don't use them a ton. It's just to see in the dark very quickly for short amounts of time, usually a couple of minutes at most. And I usually don't use these at full brightnesses, so I'm not looking at, like with the Rovivon, the 550 lumen rating. I'm looking at how long they'll last at the lower brightnesses, just because I think that's enough for most situations. That's not true with some of these, especially the ones with the moonlight mode. 1 lumen is just not quite enough in a lot of situations, but it's what I prefer in walking around the house at night if I don't want to wake somebody up. This is the Rovivon Aurora. I've talked about these in depth. I've done a video on the Rovivon Aurora, and then I did another video on all the different versions of the Rovivon Aurora. And full disclosure, Rovivon has sponsored this channel at a time. They don't currently, but they did supply this flashlight, and I have talked about them in depth. I did purchase the very first one, and the reason that I reached out to them for a sponsorship is because I thought it was a great product, and it worked out for both of us because they were able to sponsor my channel, but they were also able to grow as a company, and it was just a mutually beneficial situation. And this is still one of my favorite tiny flashlights, because these things are just really cool. They updated them, fixed some of the older issues like the long turn on time. Now it's a very, very quick turn on and turn off. But this flashlight, the Rovivon Aurora, this one will range from $25 all the way up to $70. I don't know the prices of some of the newer ones like the A6, the A7, and the A8. I did do a roundup on all the Rovivon flashlights, but that was before those came out. It's like every week they're rolling out another Rovivon flashlight, and it's hard to keep up with. But this is the A4. This is the titanium one. This is the one that I have carried for months and months and months. This one will run you $70, but you can get one for as low as 25 bucks if you want to go with the polycarbonate. There's aluminum, stainless steel, a luminous body. There are tons of different versions of the Rovivon flashlights. And for the most part, they all have the same features. There are the ones with the side lights. The luminous one has the side lights, and they've got additional runtime metrics, but for the most part, the core function, the main light on the Rovivon flashlights is the same. So the way they work, at least the non-luminous body ones, the ones without side lights, you turn the flashlight on and it goes to your low mode, which is nice. The next one is high, which I kind of hate. Then you have medium and then strobe. So the thing about these Rovivon flashlights is that their runtimes are a little wonky. They list them as different in different places, but your low mode says it's 1 lumen. That is not 1 lumen. That looks more like maybe 10 lumens to me. That is not 1 lumen, because 1 lumen looks like this. This is 1 lumen. This is not 1 lumen. 1 lumen, brighter than 1 lumen. I think it's 5 or 10 lumens. I don't know for sure. And I think that's mainly because your high rating is very high. It's 550 lumens, and they're bright. They are much brighter than any of these other very tiny flashlights like these. This is much brighter. But when it comes to your runtime, it's not very long. It will only stay at that 550 lumens for about 2 minutes. And then it steps down to, I believe, 60 lumens. 60 lumens, I believe, is also going to be your medium right there. And then your low, whatever that lumen rating is, this lumen level right here, this mode is set to last on a full charge about 2.5 hours. And your high, like I said a second ago, this only lasts for about 2 minutes, and then it drops to this, which will last for about 30 minutes to an hour. But this battery inside here is quite small comparatively. It only has a 130 milliamp hour battery. So this one weighs a little more than the polycarbonate or the aluminum, not as quite as much as the stainless steel, but they're all gonna be the same size. So this is 2.16 inches long or 54.8 millimeters, 0.57 inches in diameter or 14.5 millimeters. And inside you have a Cree XPG3 LED, and some of these also have a Nichia 219C. That version, the Nichia, is only going to have 350 lumens. They are USB rechargeable. The charging port is right here on the back of the flashlight. I actually have the clip a little bit in the way of that port and the port cover. And like I said, the battery inside is only going to be about 130 milliamp hours. So this one has the brightest lumen rating of any of these smaller keychain flashlights, but it has the shortest run times. There is reason for praise for this light because they're so bright and they're very functional, very useful, and I love the form factor and the design, but they do have short run times, especially at 550 lumens. 2 minutes, that's all you get at that full brightness. But every time I've ever used this light, I almost always use the low mode, the one that is first up when you turn it on. There is no memory, so you turn it on, it starts on low, and I almost always use that, and with that you're going to get 2.5 hours. Let's move on to the next, and I want to bring in a couple of these flashlights for a very specific reason. Most of these flashlights have the same features. They've got the same battery inside, they've got a very similar way to recharge them, they've got same brightnesses, they've got very similar run times. These 5 flashlights, for all intents and purposes, are very similar. And let's just go through some of those things really quickly. They're all twist functions with 2 modes. They have a low mode and a high mode. Most of those low modes are going to be 8 or 10 lumens every single time. The O light is the only one with a lower lumen rating. That low mode is 5 lumens instead of 8 or 10. And the Maritac Peanut has the low mode at 12 lumens instead of 8, 10, or 5. And all of these are gonna be in the ballpark of 130 to 145 lumens. In fact, the only one at 145 lumens is the Maritac Peanut. So all of these, for all intents and purposes, are very, very similar flashlights. With that said, let's just talk about a few things to note about each. So this is the Mech Army X3S in copper. It does come in a bunch of different finishes. There's an X4S. Mech Army has a bunch of different keychain flashlights very similar to this. This is a twist function with your low mode and your high mode. That is 8 and 130 lumens. At 8 lumens, you're gonna get about 6 hours on this flashlight, and at 130 lumens, you're only gonna get about 30 minutes. This flashlight is IPX8 certified for water resistance. It is 0.63 ounces or 18 grams. The other versions are lighter because this one is copper. It is 1.83 inches long, that is 46.4 millimeters, or 0.58 inches in diameter at its thickest part, and that is 14.8 millimeters. Inside you have a Cree XP G2 LED, and it is micro USB rechargeable, has a 100 milliamp hour internal battery, and this one charges by twisting off this first cap, this front cap, and the micro USB port is right there underneath that front cap portion. And that is one thing to note. This cap does not come off. You can twist and turn it all you want, that cap stays right there, which is a very nice feature. And something else to note about the X3S, on this side, if you untwist this tail cap, you can take out the battery, which you cannot do with any of these other than the Everbright flashlight. All of the other ones that we've talked about so far have internal batteries that are non-removable. That is 100 milliamp hour battery inside there. This is a 10180 lithium battery. And these are kind of hard to find, but all of these have this battery inside. So you can find them. They're not cheap. I think they're like $12 per battery, something like that. That's all I could find. I didn't look extensively. But you can buy replacement batteries for these flashlights, and they would be very small to keep, you know, on hand or in a truck or something. So that is the Mech Army X3S. This is $36.90, so $36.90. So this one is made of aluminum. It's very similar to the Mech Army, but probably closer to the ones that are not made out of copper, especially when it comes to weight. This one has that larger tail cap too for a lanyard, so you could attach it to your keychain or a lanyard. This one has a very small hole on the end, and they do provide a split ring, but this is definitely more suited towards putting on a keychain. And this one is almost tit for tat the exact same light. You twist this off, you have your USB recharging port right there. The cap does not come off. And on this side, you have your battery. That is another 10180 battery. And this one is 3.7 volts and 0.26 watt hours. I'm not exactly sure the milliamp hour rating. I believe it's around the same, 100 milliamp hours. But it's the same battery. Inside, that's pretty much all you need to know, because the 2 modes that you have on this flashlight are 8 lumens just like the Mech Army. So you have 8 lumens, and that runtime is 5.25 hours, so they're a little more conservative with the runtime, and 130 lumens, which they say will run for 24 minutes. So they are much more conservative with the runtimes. This one is also IPX8 certified. It is 0.56 ounces or 16 grams, and your lengths are just ever so slightly different. 1.73 inches long, 44 millimeters, or 0.59 inches in diameter. That is 14.9 instead of 14.8. And inside, you also have the Cree XP, but this is the G3, not the G2 LED. And this one is diffused. So this one is not diffused, this one is diffused. There are a few of these other flashlights, like this Nightcore tinny, it is also diffused. You can see, if you look very closely at the lenses, there is a diffuser, which makes it a much softer light. Next up, we have the Phoenix UC02, and this flashlight is almost the exact same. It runs $24.95, so $25 for this flashlight. And again, twist with 2 modes. You have your low, which is 10 lumens, which they say will run for 3 hours and 50 minutes. And then at 130 lumens, they say 25 minutes is your max runtime. This one is IP68 certified for water resistance. It is 1.7 inches long or 43.2 millimeters and 0.55 inches in diameter. That is 14 millimeters on the nose and 18.4 grams excluding battery. Inside you have a Cree XP-G2 S2 micro USB rechargeable. It has the same 10-180 battery inside, but this one is 80 milliamp hours instead of 100. And the difference with this flashlight is that you have to screw this entirely off, and then you have your recharge port, your micro USB port inside the cap there. So this cap does come off, and if you lose this, then you're totally out of luck. One thing I did learn from Phoenix right before shooting this video is that the UC02 is now currently discontinued. You can still find it on Amazon for 25, 30 bucks, but it is discontinued, and Phoenix told me that there will be an updated version very soon. And again, if you take off the tail cap here, you have your battery inside, and the difference is that this one, if you do the math for your 3.6 volts and 0.288 watt hours, this is an 80 milliamp hour battery. That is the Phoenix UC02. Before moving on, there was one more thing I did want to note about the UC02. This flashlight, you twist it to get to the low mode, then the bright mode. If you twist just a little further, the flashlight will turn off. And I don't think that's an intended function. I did see some reviews saying that there were some wonky things going on with the twist functionality of this flashlight and that it stopped working after some time. I don't know, I've not had this one for super long, but it does turn off if you twist too far, which is not the case with any of these others. You can twist all the way on and it won't twist any further and the flashlight stays on. That's true with the Mech Army as well. They don't turn back off. This one from Phoenix does. Next up, we have the Olight I1R EOS. I did cover this one extensively in a video already. I unboxed this one, and this one does not have a removable battery, so it is rechargeable, but that battery is internal and there is no way to get to it. So that is the pitfall of the I1R, especially after looking at these. I loved this flashlight, carried this on my keychain for the longest time, really like Olight, but they're the only ones in this whole category that don't offer a removable battery on this flashlight. And you do have to take this cap all the way off to get to that charging port. So it's very much like the UC02, but it doesn't have a replaceable battery. But it is cheaper. It's $16.99, making it the cheapest out of any of these USB rechargeable keychain flashlights, the micro flashlights, if you will. It does have your 2 twist modes. You have 5 lumens for your low mode, which should last for 7 hours, and 130 lumens will last for about 20 minutes. It is IPX8 certified. It is 0.42 ounces, I believe the lightest, if the peanut is not the lightest. That is 12 grams, 1.61 inches long, so it's very short. That is 41 millimeters, 0.55 inches in diameter, or 14 millimeters on the nose. And inside the I1R EOS, you actually have a Philips Luxion TX with the TIR reflector. That's very common for Olight, and there you go. This internal battery, I believe, is gonna be a little bit smaller than the rest of these, just because you're getting a little less runtime and it is not removable. It's just a little unfortunate. Not a killer. It is cheaper, but it is not a totally killer feature that ruins the flashlight, but it is something to note. And this right here, this is the smallest flashlight I could find that is USB rechargeable, and that is the Maratac Peanut. And this thing is just straight up tiny. The i1R EOS is a very tiny flashlight. I mean, look at that. But look at it next to the Peanut. The Peanut is significantly smaller. It's narrower, it's shorter. It's just a ridiculously tiny flashlight, but you are also gonna pay for this flashlight. This flashlight runs for $45.99. It does have 2 modes. Your low mode is 12 lumens, like I mentioned before. It's the highest low mode, which has a 6-hour runtime, and then your high mode is 145 lumens, so it has the highest high mode of these micro flashlights as well, with a runtime of about 25 minutes. It is IPX7 certified for water resistance, just 0.38 ounces or 10.7 grams. It is only 1.29 inches long, or 32.8 millimeters, and 0.52 inches in diameter, that is 13.2 millimeters. Inside, you have a Cree XP-G2S4 LED with an orange peel reflector for even soft light distribution. That is a quote from the listing on the CountyCom website. You can see if you look in there, it's probably very hard to see on camera, but it is an orange peel reflector, which is pretty neat. It is micro USB rechargeable with a 70 milliamp hour battery, so it does have the smallest of all of these micro batteries. It is also a 10180 battery, but here is the thing about the Maratech Peanut. Here's how they made it so small. There is a removable battery inside. However, when you screw off this cap, it comes off and there's no USB port. So how is this flashlight USB rechargeable? So this cap you set to the side, and it comes with this little fancy case that you have to open, and inside this case, there's another cap. This is the worst part of the Maratech Peanut. You screw on this additional cap, which is kind of ridiculous. You screw it all the way down, and then you have a micro USB port on the top of this cap, and that's just unfortunate. I wanted to love this. I do love this form factor. It's ridiculously small, but having to have this extra cap is just ridiculous. It is so insanely tedious to be able to keep up with this. I will lose this, much less the cap that you need to recharge it, which is just tiny. I lost this whole container before this video. I had to look everywhere to figure out where I put this little container, because I put this inside it and thought, I won't lose the container. I will lose this little recharge dongle, but I won't lose the container. I lost the dang container, so I couldn't recharge the flashlight. So there you go. This thing is really neat, very, very tiny, completely disappears in the pocket, on the keychain, however you want to carry it. And it also tucks away. This little split ring tucks away perfectly, which is also just a neat little touch. This is overbuilt compared to some of these others, but you have to use a different dongle to charge it. Let's also recap your prices really quickly. So your Nightcore TUP is going to be $64.95. Your Everbright LED keychain flashlight is $18.49. Your Nightcore tip is $36.95. Your Nightcore tinny is going to be $31.95. The Rovivon flashlights range from $25 all the way up to $70. Your Mech Army X3S is going to be $36.90. And the Claris Mini 1, which is pretty much the exact same flashlight out of aluminum, is just $19.95. I might have skipped over that, and I might not have even said that this was the Claris Mini 1. Your Phoenix UC02 is $24.95, but that price ranges a lot, especially now that they are discontinued, because they're going to be in and out of stock in different places. You have your i1R EOS, which is $16.99, and your Maratech Peanut is $45.99. So your cheapest flashlight on the table is the i1R EOS, which is one of the reasons that people love it so much. It is affordable and it just works, but you do not have that interchangeable battery. So I think better deal than your i1R EOS is the Claris Mini 1, because you've got all of the features of the Olight i1R EOS, except you're not going to lose the cap because it stays on, and you have a rechargeable battery that is replaceable. So your best bargain is actually not going to be the Olight. It's actually going to be the Claris Mini 1. And honestly, it's my favorite looking flashlight. These two are the best on appearance, I think. The Mech Army X3S and the Claris Mini 1. And a close second is probably the tinny, just because it's copper. It's got such a funky look to it. It looks almost like, I don't know, it has kind of a scuba diver vibe, like an old school scuba vibe to it. It's just got a really cool design, and I quite like the way that this flashlight looks. So when it boils down to it, your smallest and lightest flashlight is going to be $46 actually, and your biggest and brightest is going to be $65. And there's a whole lot of range in between that's a lot cheaper, and it's really hard to choose just one. But if I were to choose just one of these keychain flashlights to use, it's a tough decision, but if I had to choose just one, it's probably going to be the Mech Army. And there are a couple of reasons. One, it's really no different than the Claris Mini 1. So if this one feature does not matter to you, then get the Claris Mini 1. But the one thing is that it's got this lanyard hole, so I can put a lanyard on it. This doesn't work nearly as well with a lanyard. And that is the one reason I would choose it over the Claris. It's the same exact thing with practically the same runtime and all the same features for cheaper. It's 20 bucks. That is the best value on the table. But I love the copper look of this one. You have the added benefit of not losing the cap like you would on the i1R. You have the replaceable battery if you ever need to, or if you want to have a spare. And it just looks neat, but you have that lanyard hole, which will also work with a key ring or even like a carabiner like this right here. This one actually doesn't fit, but your Nitei's S-Beaners do fit perfectly. And that's how I've been carrying this one on my keychain for the last couple of weeks, is with a Nitei's S-Beaner and keeping the lanyard on it. That's gonna do it for this video. If you found it helpful and you enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button below and subscribe to the channel to see more stuff like this in the future. If there's another roundup you would like to see other than the version 2, round 2 of the roundup of utility knives, let me know in the comments down below, and hit that notification bell so you're notified when I do upload new videos. If you see anything in this video that you did like and want to purchase yourself, there will be links down below so you can purchase those. If you do purchase those, it will help support the show. And if you want to help support the show even more, you can go to patreon.com/bestdamnedc. Be sure to follow us around the web. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at bestdamnedc. You can find me, Taylor Martin, on Twitter and Instagram at CasperTech. And until next time, carry on.